Hi everyone, thanks for joining. We might have some more people trickle in later, but we can just get started now. So we have our four panelists from four colleges and four different engineering disciplines who were able to make time and come talk to us today. I think it'll be good for us to get started with just like introducing yourself, your major, what college you're in, and then we can get started with the questions that we're planning to go over.
I'll go ahead and go first. So my name is Minahil Nadeem. I'm a first year aerospace engineering major at Georgia Tech.
I can go. My name is Jonathan Schiff. I'm at Northwestern University and I'm in chemical engineering.
And then, yeah, my name is Rana Hasan. I'm right now a senior at UIC, and majoring in biomedical engineering, and this is my last year. I'm graduating in May, so that's exciting. And I'm in like an imaging concentration.
Cool. So I think it'll be good for us to get started with the question, what factors influenced your decision in choosing your major? And if you struggled to decide, how did you decide? And maybe you can also share a little bit about what your major is, so it's like good context.
I'll go first for this one. Um, for me, I was in very much in between aerospace engineering and electrical engineering because I really like circuitry and breadboarding, but then I also really like the space side of aerospace and just space in general, which enticed me a lot. And I think what helped me ended up choosing aerospace engineering, I think was probably the college that I got into, just knowing that I got into Georgia Tech and knowing that they have such a good aerospace engineering program just made me more influenced to pursue aerospace engineering in that regard. A little bit about aerospace engineering. Anything that flies in our Earth, that is what aerospace engineers do. Things like planes and drones and satellites and rockets. And I'm looking forward to definitely specialize more on the rocketry side and space side in my career going on forward at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, so I picked chemical engineering pretty recently. Like a month or two ago, I selected to do that. It's the big reason I picked Northwestern is because they let you switch around majors pretty easily. So I had no idea what I wanted to do going in, really. I did a BME, biomedical engineering, like introductory course, and I didn't love it. I didn't really like the careers you can get. No shade on any BMEs, but I it just wasn't for me. And then I did the same thing for chemi, and everybody seemed to think like me. They wanted to do just a lot of different things. Chemi seems to really open the doors to pretty much any discipline, and it helps. Northwestern has really good chemistry stuff. So
Next question is, when you guys decided to start looking at specific schools and what resources and like things you did that helped you best understand what a school kind of like what the vibe is at a school and what you would be prepared to have at the school. And maybe you could also talk about Minahil. I know you said like Georgia Tech, like being accepted into Georgia Tech is what made you decide to do aerospace. So did you apply to like different majors at different schools and how you decided that as well?
So for my family, we didn't exactly visit any of the schools that I applied to before I started applying to them. So I was very much just trying to get a vibe from a school from online as best as I could. Um, what helped me specifically was pretending that I'm actually a student there already, and I'm going through the website as if like I'm trying to figure out what classes would I take, who are my counselors, what clubs would I join. At Tech specifically, from a lot of the colleges that I saw, Tech has like a very involved aerospace engineering program in terms of extracurriculars and connections as well. Tech has like some very, very nice extracurriculars and options for you to get involved in the major outside of just your classes as well. So that definitely enticed me to go to Tech because not many colleges I felt like were building really, really huge rockets and allowing freshmen to like go and like help with that and see the process with that as well. So the fact that you're able to integrate yourself into your major, especially is what helped me choose Tech as well.
like I mentioned, Northwestern, the biggest reason I chose that school is because they they allow you to switch around a lot. Like they allow you to discover and take a lot of like zero credit introductory classes. And that was really helpful for me going in. Just all I know is that I like science and math. And so the fact that I could go in and try just a lot of different things was really important to me. So you have to kind of really find that one thing that matters, not necessarily that one thing, but you have to figure out what matters to you and then look for schools that have that thing. Like if you know you really want to do nursing, don't just go to a school because it's good. Go to a school because it has a good nursing program. So it's really like it's not just going to the best school you can go to, it's going to the best school for you. And the way to figure that out is if you can visit, if you can't, then yeah, just try your best to get a vibe, a feel for how it would be if you were a student there.
I personally I picked UIC. It was more of like I had like a personal connection because I do like I like live in like the south suburbs, and I actually went to like this engineering like thing when I was 10 years old, and it was at UIC. So I like kind of like already had this like personal comfort with it. But then I also just really liked their engineering programs, and like there's a women in engineering program like thing, and then there's a equity and inclusion program that they have, and like they're kind of interconnected, and like the people who run it are like they're like amazing people, and they like just really want you to succeed. So I think it was just really about like what my gut feeling was, and I feel like you shouldn't like ignore your gut feeling when choosing. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can you guys touch on, compared to your high school experience, what do you think helped you best prepare for colleges or for college? And are there any aspects you wish you focused more on? Maybe this is like in a social aspect or how the classes are structured.
I think I wished I focused on my study habits a bit more in high school, because in high school I could very easily get by on just surface level study habits and just memorization and just figure out patterns to get myself through a test. But in college, it's the way they test you and the way you're asked to apply your knowledge is very different than high school. I wish I had better study habits to build off of so that I'm not starting from scratch in college. Because you need to figure out a way to grasp a good understanding, a fundamental understanding of what they're teaching you, to be able to apply it in such numerous and different ways than what you've seen in class. And I think that's what's really different about high school, because you can just figure out patterns and memorization and get yourself through. But in college, you need to figure out how to you need to figure out a good learning style for you and study habits for you, which I wish I focused on.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll second that. I wish I had done more study habit stuff, but a bigger, more specific, very specific thing is at least at Northwestern, if you think you're going into STEM, which I'm assuming is most people here, you should do some English APs or some history APs because those, the STEM APs, those aren't, this is very specific advice, but the STEM APs don't always count towards your STEM degree, but often the history ones will. It's obviously very school dependent. This is a general statement, but don't neglect your English and history and just social sciences APs just because you don't think you're going to do them. You can get general credits just for, but yeah, that's a very specific piece of advice.
it I feel like definitely like kind of like reiterating what you guys said. Especially like now since like I'm on like on my last like semester, your the way your brain changes is like so weird, like with the way you when you study engineering, because it's really like so different like when you're in high school, like just for any classes. And like I didn't really think like English classes would like make a difference too, because you do a lot of citations, you do a lot of like I guess like different report styles, and like of course like not necessarily like the grammar has to be like very like professional in engineering because you're using more like different like terms and stuff, but definitely a lot of like there's just a lot of different aspects that like go into it that you wouldn't expect. um but I think it's just the way your brain changes. Yeah.
Our fourth panelist also just joined. So, Summer, do you want to give a brief, not description, but like introduction about yourself? And then we can just continue with where we're at on the questions.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Summer. I'm a freshman at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. I'm studying mechanical engineering. I'm kind of looking to take that into the realm of like space exploration and discovery. So currently I'm working in a lab here. We have a contract with NASA and we're working on robots that are like going to work together and they're gonna go for the Artemis mission. We're currently still in the middle of doing that, but if anyone has any questions about like student research or anything like that, I'm more than willing to answer that. Anything about like balancing social life versus like, because I'm also in Greek life here, and like dance groups and yeah, basically anything. If you guys have any questions, let me know.
So next question is how hard engineering is in college, and if you could like describe some classes and the structure of them, and maybe what study habits you have developed, even though maybe it was like difficult since some of you said they weren't that much ingrained in high school, what has developed over time, and how is that helping you with the college structure of classes?
A lot of the engineering classes you're going to take, especially for gen eds, are going to be math and science heavy. So you're going to be, I assume you're going to be working with a lot of practice problems and application-based problems. So for me, what I found worked best for me was like what I am studying and I'm going through a topic and I have practice problems on a certain topic. I don't move from a problem until I understand every single aspect of the problem and how to solve it. That way I'm able to really hone it down and understand what I'm doing and to be able to apply that to other problems that I'm doing as well.
Yeah, I would say that the class structure is it's noticeably different than high school because you're not doing a lot of things that you don't want to be doing. You're doing, generally speaking, you're doing things you're interested in, even if they are gen eds. Like I had a chemistry class earlier this year. I loved it. It was more the lecture that I liked because he did such a good job, but I really just liked this chemistry class. And the way it was structured, it's similar to a lot of classes. I'll just be specific here, is you go to lecture, you do however much homework, and then the rest is studying to make sure you understand what you're doing. So the majority of your time in college is not going to be spent in lecture or not necessarily even doing homework. It's going to be spent, it's really up to you to decide how much effort you want to put in. But if you don't put in these extra quote unquote hours, you're going to be falling behind. So you have to kind of put in a lot of time, especially for engineering. You have to be putting in a lot of time outside of class. Just even though there's nothing assigned to do, maybe you have to really put in effort and yeah, spend the time.
My school, we have this thing called senior design. I'm not sure if like everyone else's schools have this, but like your senior year, it's kind of like you're taking everything that you learned like from like those 3 years and like applying it to this class. And it's very like critical thinking, and because it's kind of like this is everything that you learned in like engineering, and like it's a lot of, I don't know if, like for BME, it's more like we're designing like a product, most kind of like a medical product, and a lot of things that you're gonna learn are like kind of like patents and like standards and like things like that, which is like really interesting. I think it's really just a lot of it. I feel like I can't really say anything really prepares you for like the classes you'll take, because they're just new concepts. Like no matter how much like math and science, like it's a lot of new things, but it's not as hard as you would think, I feel like.
Yeah, my school also has senior design, so I was gonna say the exact same thing. It's very hands-on. I'd say the conceptual gen ed classes are gonna be, you have to be so prepared for them to beat you down, and you just have to like stand through it and be like, I'm gonna be okay. Like right now, like at the beginning of the year, I started freaking out about like my grades and like everything. And I was like, these classes are so hard. And then you realize you talk to everybody else. And like, for example, all of my friends and I got a 30% on one of my tests last week. My friend got a 40, my other friend got a 25. My professor was like, you guys are doing great. If I didn't talk to those people in my class and I just told somebody that I got 30%, they'd be like, what the heck? Like, what are you doing? But we're studying so hard over here, and you just have to be for your grades to not be A's like maybe you're used to in high school. And also, I'd say like the hands-on classes are something that you can't really prepare for, but it's something that I really enjoy. So I'm in a mechanical engineering seminar this semester, and those projects are super fun. And it's like unlike anything that I got to do in high school, where we're basically working on like how to like do bills of materials and like work on like different like structures and like staying organized if you have a contract or a project, working on designing stuff. Like I got to build a fidget spinner for homework the other day. That was really fun. My current project we're working on is we're trying to rebuild like a kid's wind-up toy, and we're modeling all the parts on the inside and like 3D printing all of them. You learn a lot just about like SolidWorks and just like computer aided design and all of that, which is really cool. But you just have to be ready to like learn new things that you just like didn't think that you would have to. Like I have an electrical engineering class too. Like I did not think that I was going to be sitting in an electrical engineering lab for 5 hours a week, just like doing circuits and stuff. And that's like not something that we're learning in our electromagnetics class, but that is the lab for that lecture. So you'll be learning like conceptual physics, and then you'll just go into the lab and they'll just like hands-on engineering all of a sudden. And that's just something I personally didn't have in high school. So yeah.
I do want to add one more thing that was slightly touched on. Engineering is a team sport. If you are not studying with people, I have no idea how you're going to do well in any class. It's really, you build off of each other. Really, again, school dependent. Sometimes it can be competitive where classes are curved or tests are curved based on your classmates. So you want your classmates to do worse. But even though that's the case, sometimes it really doesn't feel like it because everybody's just trying to learn from the textbook and then from each other and then from the lecture. It's just everybody's working together to, yeah, to do well. So do that.
Yeah. And a little branch away from like the exact details of classes and how you manage the labs versus lectures and stuff. What are some things you do outside of just classes in your school? Like maybe extracurriculars or other clubs you're committed to? And how do you manage your time commitment to those things versus to like homework and school stuff?
Summer should start this one off because she is in like a lot of different things as an engineer.
Okay, I can start off. So here at Penn, I am in a dance company. I was a dancer all throughout high school, and so I knew when I got to college that I needed something to relieve my stress, and that's like one tip I have for you. If you do something you love in high school, you like need to find time to do it in college, even if it's gonna like cram your schedule. Like I was doing we just had our show, but I was doing like 15 to 20 hours a week of dance. And like it was something that was like stress relieving for me, but also at times like it got crazy. Like we had like our hell week during like I had a midterm for one of my classes, and I like quite literally like my brain was about to explode. I was like, I have no time to study. But it's like really something I enjoy doing. Also I knew I wanted to be involved in like Greek life here. And especially at UPenn, like I feel like that's something that like a lot of people are involved in. And that's been also really nice. And that's like my sorority's really good about. That's why I joined them is we have a lot of engineers, which they're really forgiving about like if you have to like miss something to go to like a test or like if there's something on a Thursday night, I'll just text like our social chair and be like, hey, I have my math quiz tomorrow morning. And she's like, I totally understand. And I'm like, I study with like my sorority sisters. They're like in all my engineering classes. It's like really nice. So yeah, I'd say you really have to like Google Calendar. That is like my main, like I plan out every minute of my day. Like you need to plan out when you're eating, you need to plan out like when you're going to office hours, you need to plan out like where your lectures are, if you have a meeting with somebody. Like it's really like easy to forget when you have a ton of things going on at once. And a lot of times, I think it's popular at my school, like a lot of the clubs will have like shared calendars for Google Calendar. And that's really helpful. So like everyone will just kind of like share it and then it will like appear in your Google Calendar, if that makes any sense. So it's like easy to keep track of. Um, and as of like my research position, they're also pretty flexible with that. That's like my job here on campus. So obviously I have like mandatory hours to like work because it's like for the school. But for that, it's like really like it's supplementing what I'm doing in class. So like I almost feel like it's not like super overwhelming. And also the people I've met through that, like I work with like postdoc students and like master's students, they help me out with my homework like that. It's so nice like to have like someone who's fully been through like masters, like their whole like master's program and their postdoc, and they're helping me out with my like little freshman year physics homework or whatever. But you really do have to plan. The stuff does work out itself. And I'm someone who likes to keep myself busy. So if that's not for you, then you know yourself best. But Google Calendar, that's the 2-word answer if you're going to take anything.
For me, I just try to make sure I have activities that appeal to all sides of me. For instance, I love playing sports, so then I join like intramural volleyball or intramural soccer, and I join with my friends, or I'm always going to the gym with my friends. And then I like something academics. I'd like make sure I have time for like extracurriculars, like for my academic. Like I'd be in like spending time in them like in the maker spaces with my friends as well, just tinkering around with different little inventions and stuff. Or I like to read, so I join a book club or something from a club on campus. So just making sure that you allot time for all these different aspects of you as well. And like she said, like just using things like a Google Calendar or like assignment notebook if you're like writing things down. But yeah, you do have to like plan out your day and like figuring out when are you gonna do what.
I'm not in too many crazy things because I would like to keep my stress as low as possible. But I mean, that said, I'm doing some physics research. I have 2 jobs technically, but they're both like 4 hours a week. I referee and I tutor some local high school kids, which is something I did when I was in high school. And I was in a club for some time. Really, it depends on what you want to do. I would argue that if something is causing you extra stress on top of school, it's not worth it. However, if you really like to do that thing, like Summer said, with dancing, then it can be worth it. But I haven't found anything that's like that for me. So I just try and focus on school as much as I can. At least I think the first year for my major or first and second years are one of the hardest. So I think I'll branch out more later, but I'm just trying to focus on keeping my head above water and doing well there. So yeah, the research is kind of a time sink too.
I feel like I'm like sort of like I have like a weird exception because my first year was like the COVID year, so it was like all online. So it was like really, really hard to get involved and like I think that really I guess like struck like a chord with me. I don't know how to like word it, but it made it really hard to like get involved after because my sophomore year it was like everyone had their masks on and like you had to be away from everyone. So that was also really hard because everyone just didn't. It was very like I said antisocial sort of aspect happened, but I think like I like dabbled in like different like clubs and like stuff like that, but I really took like most of my time for SWE, the Society of Women Engineers. I've been like the president of that for like the past 2 years, and like that's where kind of if I'm not studying and like I'm not if I don't have time for myself, like I'm like doing SWE stuff, and like I also don't like to stress myself out too much, and like of course like I kind of like what Summer said, like you know yourself best, like if you feel like you can't handle too many things, like don't set yourself up for like a really high expectation because like at the end of the day like you're most important and like your school's more important and like all of these like extracurriculars like they come after you. So don't stress yourself out. And I think like just like taking like one leadership position is like honestly like, what kind of sets yourself up to like when applying to jobs and stuff. So
Very cool. And this might not apply to all of you, but if you do have something going on, could you describe a project or job or internship that you're doing right now? And Summer, you could talk maybe about how like you started the research. Actually, all of you, how you started it and how it's going so far.
Here, I can go. But yeah, so for me, I quite literally had zero engineering experience. Like I'm gonna be so real. In high school, like I was not on robotics team. Like that was just not me. I had zero hands-on experience. So if that's your like worrying factor, like do not let that worry you. in getting involved on campus. Like if you want to get involved, if you put the effort into doing that, then you can get involved. That is like what I'm gonna say. But for me, what I did is cold emailed. So I heard this on like all my college tours, and I really just did not think that people actually did that. But then I found myself like maybe a month or two before school started emailing the professor that I actually wrote about in my YS essay for the school, because I saw that he had broken this like Guinness World Record or something like really insane. And so I emailed him and I was like, hey, is there any like possibility, like research, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, completely understand if there's no space in your lab, but like would love to like meet with you and like talk about your work or like stay in touch for the next 4 years, stuff like that. Like flash forward, I went to an advancing women in engineering like pre-orientation program. And so we had a like brunch, like a faculty brunch. Seats were completely random. And guess who I get sat next to? It was the professor that I had cold emailed. And so he had remembered me from the email. And we just started talking. I told him about like my love for like space exploration. And he goes, you know what? I have this project with NASA that we're about to sign a contract for. And I was like, oh my God. And I did not even expect that he would even let a freshman onto that project. And he's like, but I think I can get you in the lab. And I was like, I literally love you. Like, I was so excited. And so yeah, the rest is from there. Like, I do odd jobs in the lab and stuff like that, but I'm learning so much. My lab partners are teaching me like actually like the like upperclassmen that I work with are actually insane. Like they're working for like SpaceX over the summer. Like they're crazy. Like I'm just like the freshman in the lab that's like just there doing like little like odd jobs here and there, attending the meetings and like all of that. But like I still get a lot of hands-on experience. So like for what our lab does is basically their NASA's rovers was getting like stuck, like they were getting stuck in like craters and like stuck in like lunar dust on the moon. And so the professor that I reached out to, he specializes in modular robotics. So that's like basically like think like a ton of drones like come in a swarm together to like complete a task, or like a ton of like little like swimming boats will like form a bridge so that something can pass over it. So like robots that are conscious of one another and like working together. So they reached out to see if we could come up with a solution for that. So we're working on 3 platforms for robots. One of them is more of like a horse that like gallops, kind of like it has like springy legs. The other one is like your classic like wheeled like rover situation. And then the third one is called the Husky, and it literally looks like a dog. It's really funny. It walks around and it has like 4 legs and it's like literally like a miniature dog. And basically we're working on, well, the postdoc is working on this arm that's like gonna detect and like they can grab onto each other. So the solution is gonna be, let's say the Husky gets stuck, it can be like, oh no, please help me, send like a laser signal out, and then the other robots can reach out. Maybe the one with wheels is like in a better situation, lift it up and get it out. And then they can all kind of like share data between each other. So that's like the gist of that. But honestly, it was a really lucky break getting involved in the lab, but I'm so happy that I did it. My other friends involved in research here did it. We have like one of my friends cold emailed, another one, we have like a student research like center here on campus where they kind of help place people into jobs. So she did that. And yeah, so yeah, I think that's about it. But yeah, it's really fun. I love it. Highly recommend.
Cold emailing is definitely one way to get research. A lot of my friends did that and they did get research positions and stuff. At Tech as well, there's more ways to get involved, to get yourself with hands-on experience and just research. We had this program called Vertically Integrated Projects, or VIPs for short, and basically you just put in what major you are, and they give you like a lot of different projects that you can just basically sign up as a class, essentially. But when you sign up for a project, you go into that project's class or whatever for like twice a week, once a week, and you work on a project for the whole semester, hands-on experience. You're not cold emailing anybody, but you're getting involved in your something hands-on for your major because like tech just has this program, I guess. And then other ways to get more involved in project stuff is definitely extracurriculars because like I said, tech has like rocket clubs where you can, as a freshman, like go and build rockets with upperclassmen, or like racing clubs where you can go and build cars with upperclassmen, or other clubs as well that you can get hands-on experience even if you don't get research. So there's a lot of ways to like do projects and stuff.
I cold emailed my TA after going to him for like a question I had on homework. He he's like, can you wait 5 minutes for me to go look at this equipment? And I just asked to come with. And I saw this huge standing electron microscope, and I just thought it was so cool. I was like, can I join your lab? He says, I will text my supervisor, which is a physics professor. And now I'm in this magnetometry lab where I barely know what that means. So don't ask me what magnetometry is. But what I'm going to be doing is, I haven't really started yet, but I'm going to be kind of characterizing some magnetic materials, which is pretty fancy. But yeah, I'm just happy to be part of something so cool. And yeah, cold emailing, it's professors and people in general want people who are interested in their stuff. They want to talk to you. They want to hear what you have to say, even if you are a freshman, like the three of us are. They they like that you're interested in stuff. So just cold email, ask. It can't really hurt. I mean, there's no downside. So just do it.
I I think again because I had a really weird start, like I guess my major, but my junior year I like reached out to like this one microbiology lab, and they weren't even like an engineering lab too, which was like weird like for me because like I was just like in a room or like in a lab with like a lot of like pre-med students. But like they did use like some like engineering aspects, which was like really cool. And like I was there for like 8 months. Um I think just like kind of like again like just like not being afraid to like look up like the professor and like their lab, like look all over like their lab website, like try and get as much information as like you think is like interesting to you, and then like that's when you start like emailing them and like trying to get in like their labs and stuff. And like even if if even if you don't, like there's still a lot of like different opportunities like for you. Right now I'm not like because like I'm like about to graduate, I'm not like in anything right now. But I'm like trying to keep it open for myself, I guess, for after graduation. But
I think we're like a little bit more than halfway through, and it might be a good time to open it up to general questions. If anyone has anything for a specific panelist or all four of them, you can just unmute yourself and ask, or you can put it in the chat. Um, but maybe while you guys think about that, I can ask some questions that people like sent to us before. One of them is kind of relevant to like doing internships and work in college, is how much technical experience you might have had in high school, or how much you think would be beneficial, especially if any of you are taking like computer science classes or programming classes, like doing actual projects as part of class. How much experience do you think you need beforehand, or like if that would help you at all?
I already said this. I had zero technical experience in high school. But I do think something that was like really helpful for me that I like at the time didn't realize it was like keeping up and paying attention in your AP classes. Cause you're always like, oh, like I'll like use this again. You do use it again. Like my mechanics class last semester was almost like word for word, maybe like there's like 2 or 3 extra units we added on of AP Physics C Mechanics. My class this semester, like the first, I'd say half of the class was AP Physics C E&M. My SIS class, Computer Information Science, I took both AP like computer science classes. I'm in no way an expert coder. I'm sure some people on here are like actually like gods at that. But for me, like I'm just like using my like Java skills that I learned in high school, and it makes it so much easier to keep up. And I'm actually using my notes from high school. Like I am not for math maybe, but like just paying attention in your AP classes and just taking as many as you can in the technical areas that you think you're going to pursue in college. Like I knew I kind of wanted to do mechanical engineering, so I focused on like physics and computer science, but those have been super helpful.
We have a question in the chat, which is kind of similar to some things you guys have said, but how you balance social life, academics, and sleep. I know we've gone over this like a couple different ways now, but if you have anything new to add, maybe like struggles you had in the beginning and how you adjusted for it. And this could even involve like being away from home, how you manage that, because I think that's a big concern for many kids.
So I guess I'll take this one first, but social life, academics, and sleep, these are like the holy trinity of things you need to do. You can't do just two of them. You can't do, especially not just one. You have to have all three. And the way to do this really is to know that your classes are not that big of a part of the day. So you could join clubs, you can join things, but the easiest way to do the social life aspect is to do things you wouldn't normally do. That way you can meet new people, you can get out of your little dorm room. It can be easy for just to stay in your dorm, which is not good because that way you don't meet anybody. So I would highly recommend just going and finding your people. And once you do that, which is easier said than done, it can take a while. You set aside time on the weekend. Like make it so on Saturday you don't do any schoolwork. On Sunday, maybe you only do 2 hours of schoolwork or something like that. That way you have time to spend with these people. Or you could do what I do. I go to the gym every morning with one of my friends. That's just a way for me to stay social. And yeah, for me also, I stopped being productive past like 10 p.m. So I kind of just stopped doing work. I'll just go to bed and wake up so I'll get like 7 hours of sleep or so. And it ends up working out decently. Obviously, I'm not perfect at it. I don't think anybody is. But as long as you're making a conscious effort to do all these things and balance all of them, then you'll work out pretty well. Just set aside the time. Yeah, and try to do like one thing consistently every day so that your days feel like days and you don't feel sad like you're wasting a day. Like I go to the gym, some people, I don't know, you go to lunch with a friend or something. Everybody has something. Just pick something to ground yourself.
I I like struggle a lot with I guess like maintaining like all three of these. Especially like my junior year and like last semester, I like struggled a lot with like my mental health and like um again, I think I don't know if it's just because of like the way I started college, but um I think like it's really important for you to like prioritize yourself but also like no like I guess like prioritize like what's actually like important to you. I really wish like I was more involved or like if I wish I had that opportunity like to be more involved with like I guess like more social like clubs and stuff and just like be more social with people and I think like just like planning out like my brain is like very scattered too with like engineering and stuff like that kind of like because like I'm an engineering major my brain can be like scattered with like things outside of that but I do like to plan out like my whole semester like depending on like the syllabuses that like they give us and like I'll plan out my whole week and then I'll plan out my each day like for that week and then like for that day and like that like really helps a lot and like I like stop doing my schoolwork at like a certain time every day like probably around like 9 o'clock unless it's like completely like necessary and stuff but um I guess like just learning from like my own mistakes like just don't be too hard on yourself and like don't don't be scared to like go to things by yourself too. I feel that's also something I learned. I like started going to like events like by myself like just this year because like if like some people I know if like they're not interested in that like I'm not gonna like wait around for like people like I'll just go by myself and like I end up meeting people in that sort of way. So don't like shut yourself out but like also like prioritize yourself and like know that you're like the most important throughout this whole like process.
Next question is kind of a hard right turn away from this, but when you're applying to colleges, um, if you guys have any advice about scholarships or like financial aid and that type of thing, I don't think we've really touched on that aspect of applying yet.
I wish I did this more in high school, like applying to scholarships. When your teachers and counselors tell you that time is money, like applying to scholarships is that like you're applying your time to basically get money. And I think it's really important to start like little things every day, like applying to this scholarship, applying to that one, applying to this one. So, so important. Little things add up. So I definitely think that like making sure you have time to apply to scholarships is pretty important.
I completely agree. I think a lot of times people are always focused on those like bigger scholarships and they can be so overwhelming. But for me, what I did is I found like really niche, like random scholarships. And like, yes, they might be small, but they do add up. And a lot of times these smaller scholarships are like things that like other people aren't finding. So you actually have like a higher chance of getting them. So that is my one tip. It does require you to be a lot more organized because there's a lot more deadlines and stuff happening. What I did is I made like a spreadsheet, just color coded it like red, yellow, orange, like green, depending on like what the status was of like whatever I was doing. But like those smaller, like maybe you'll write like 2 paragraphs and then you'll get a few $100 out of it. Like, and it adds up. So that's my one tip is just like stray off of the main path when it comes to those kinds of things.
You could add, how did you find those niche scholarships?
Google is your best friend. Yeah, it's literally just like researching. There's a lot of like especially for like female engineers, there's a lot of like more scholarships for that. Literally just like look up. I think I did like a construction company was doing some sort of like scholarship. Anytime that like I know like Chicago Public Schools like had that like they have like a database where you can like search up, I forget what the name was, but I did use that. There was a database where they had like do compile a lot of stuff. My school counselor was really helpful too. She'd always send over like stuff if she found it. Um and also use your friends. So like what my friends and I would do is like, let's say I found a scholarship that maybe like I'm not able to apply for just because of my demographics. I would send it over to someone who is able to apply for it. And we would all kind of like crowdsource it and send them around. Because if you have more people looking for stuff, then like you're gonna find them.
I was wondering if you recommend the no essay scholarships.
The no essay scholarships, I feel like, yes, they are worth it to submit, but oftentimes they do look at you as like a statistic or number. And I feel like for me, I had a lot more luck with like the ones that I could be creative with because you can make yourself stick out. If it was like a writing thing, like a lot of the engineering scholarships, they want to just see that you have like creativity. So like they'll give you a problem and like they'll be like, what would you do to solve this problem? Or like, what's something like what are your like dreams and aspirations in the field or whatever, and then like you get to personalize it. I feel like for me that was like better personally, but like if like it really depends on like yourself. Like I don't really, it's yeah, dependent on what you really want.
Another question is using like STEM AP classes to skip different like introductory college level classes. I've heard kind of like two sides that, you know, you took calculus in high school, so you don't have to take it again. It's a waste of time. But maybe do you think it's important to like reinforce that, or you don't feel like high school prepared you enough?
I could talk about this a little bit. It's very, very college dependent on what you do. I would recommend AP Calc at least for STEM because it's not every school, but uh it's pretty standard that you can get out of some math if you have an AP Calc credit. Physics, generally, yes. Just look at the schools really that you're applying to. They all will have a list of accepted stuff. Even if you don't know, I would generally just take as many as you think you can handle. And there's no, again, no harm. It also looks good to take AP classes on your application. But as in terms of getting out of like getting around a credit or not taking a class because you have credit, it's so hard to answer that because it's different for every school. So just really take as many as you can that stuff that you think you'll be interested in. Like I said, even if you're not interested in English, try and take some because that will likely get you out of something. So it's hard to be specific and say you should take this AP and this AP and this AP when really I can't answer that because it's different for every school. Like I know some schools don't accept AP credits at all, and some schools accept all of them. And so it's really like I don't, there's not a real concrete answer to them. But yeah.
I didn't, so I took like half AP classes, half regular classes like in high school, and like I still was able to, I guess, like finish everything. But like I like finished everything like 4 years, but it's only because I took summer classes. Like I've never taken a break like during summer, like in all my 4 years. And I think that really saved me like from being too overwhelmed during the semester. So I really recommend like just taking any summer class that like is gonna fulfill like something for you. I know I took like before I even like entered UIC, I took like the introductory like chemistry class. But it was like for free and like they would admit you to like the Gen Chem 1 class like right away. So I guess like depending on like what your school is gonna offer, really like look into that and like look into the summer classes too. 'Cause like those are really gonna, I guess, like save you from like extra stress and stuff.
My school's very picky about the STEM APs. Um, like they want to accept certain scores for STEM, but then for your STEM APs, but then they'll be like really open to accepting a lot of your non-STEM classes, which is very important. I feel like it was very important to take like AP English or AP Econ or AP History to get that out of the way. A lot of kids in my school, they also did dual enrollment, and now I don't know like what how that would apply to like Illinois schools or Illinois colleges, but like Rana said, like taking classes during the summer, that definitely helped a lot of kids in my school as well, coming in with so many credits and just being able to jump right into the degree. I also feel like even if your school doesn't accept those AP classes, those AP classes were very good, like a way to help you in those classes when you take them again in college because you already have the background, you already know what's going on, and that when you take that class again in college, it's a stress-free class almost because you've taken it in high school and you have that experience already. So even if your college doesn't accept it, I think it's pretty useful to take as many APs as you are able to take on or take summer classes as well.
I'd say my school's very, very, very picky about AP credits. So when I got here, like I was like so upset. I was like, oh my God, I did all this work in high school for nothing. It isn't for nothing, I promise. Like right now, my physics class has been made so much easier. Like, yes, I'm learning more content and stuff, but I'm able to like use my high school notes. I'm able to like rehear these concepts and it does reinforce it. But like, for example, like it's school dependent for me. So since I'm in the School of Engineering, they don't take like any like AP Lit, AP Lang, like there's like zero, like the only credits you can get, I think, for engineering is if you get a 5 on AP Chem or if you get a 5 on Calc BC. They won't take a 5 in Calc AB. And they'll take a 5 in both AP Physics, C Mechanics, and E&M. Like you have to get like a 5 in both of them. So like personally, that didn't happen for me. So here I am, but like even my friends where that did happen, they decided to retake it anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. And so yeah, it's very school dependent. So don't be too upset if you end up where you are and you're like, dang it, but they won't take your credit.
We have a question in the chat, which is how many hours a day would you say you spend studying?
I could take it. It depends on the day. I'm gonna go with a weekday on this one and say that if my classes end, what was it this quarter? I think they ended at 2 or something like that. Was generally speaking, they ended at 2. I would do work from 2 to 6, eat dinner, and then like 7 to 9, I would do work. So that's what you're good at math. That is like 6 hours-ish every day. But sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. It really depends on how I feel on any given day. And like sometimes I'm not even gonna lie. College is great because you don't have to go to class if you don't want to. You're paying for it, so you should. But sometimes I would just not feel like it and not go to class when don't do it if it's a hard class. But for an easy class, I just didn't show up. And so then you have to study more. So it's really up to you how much you want to study. If you go to class, you can study less. If you don't, you should study more. But like 6 hours a day seems like the right answer to like that's even on weekends. I'd probably say the average is probably a little lower, maybe like 4 or 5, but I would say yeah, 6-ish hours a day. It's college is as hard as you make it for yourself. Like I was in like some honors program where I had to retake physics, E&M, and mechanics, even though I got fives. And so that required more studying than if I did something else. And I'm trying to pick up like a physics double major. It's really as hard as you want to make it for yourself. And also school dependent. But I would say short answer, 6-ish hours in addition to class.
It's also kind of hard to count because like in high school, you're so used to your schedule being like set out every single day to be like the same thing. Like 8 a.m. For me, it was 8 a.m. to 3:30. And then I would have like cross country practice, 3:30 to 5:30. I'd have dance like this to this time. Like day was very laid out. I find in college, like some of my classes here end at like 6:45, but it'll be like I'll have like 10:15 to 11:45. I'll have like a 2 or 3 hour break in between. And then like go like yeah, I'd say about 6 hours a day. That does sound right, but also utilize your time in between classes because you can find yourself, you have 45 minutes in between classes where maybe you're staying in the same building. It's like, yes, some people will literally just like sit on their phone and just like talk with their friends. But for me specifically, my friends and I will be like, okay, maybe we can chip away at that math problem set in that 45 minutes. And that's like really helpful because that's time where you're not in your dorm anyways. So you're out and about, so why not use that time? So yeah, I don't know if anyone else has anything to add on that.
We have another question in the chat for the last like 2 minutes we have left, which is about Greek life in college. So Masi wants an overview of it and how it fits into your schedule.
So overview, I mean, Greek life isn't like huge at my school. I'd say it's like probably like 25% of students are involved. But it's definitely not like those like Bama Rush sorority like TikToks that everyone sees. Like it's not like that at all. Yeah, we had like Rush in the spring, which I think was really helpful because I could like find my people in the fall and kind of get settled in. And then like I came back from winter break like a bit early to Rush. So it never like involved like anything with school. In terms of how it fits into my schedule, it's really you have to have a lot of discipline and like knowing to like limit yourself from going to certain activities or not. So like for example, my sorority usually has stuff on Thursday nights, but I know that I have a math quiz every Friday morning. So instead of going on Thursday nights, I fill out our like excuse form. I text our like social chair like, hey, like, and she knows that I have these weekly math quizzes and she's really understanding about it. But it's just a matter of like instead of going to that event, like I'm staying in and I'm studying and I'm doing that because then on Fridays after I finish that math quiz, then I can go out with my friends. And yeah, I think it's also we have a lot of like philanthropy events too. So like fitting in, it'll be like random like beach cleanups or like park cleanups and like Google Calendar. That's my 2 words. Just fit those in there. But also I'm a very social person, so I feel like I was gonna socialize anyways. And like for me, the sorority was more of like a structured way of doing that. And yeah, so I feel like you're gonna be hanging out with your friends anyways, so you can just make time for that if that's what makes you happy.
It has hit the 12 o'clock mark. Is there any last questions from anyone? You can just unmute yourself and ask. Okay, I think we're good then. Thank you all so much for coming. I think this was really helpful. I learned a lot for sure, and I'm sure other people did too. Yeah, if you have any closing remarks, you can go ahead, but otherwise, I think we're all done.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Good luck,
thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
luck, guys.